Darby Williams on December 11, 2002.
He was on the last end of the Scarborough, I guess. But everything down this way, I said, well, I was telling Sharon, she said, now don't go getting depressed, over things, I said, well, I got on the bed the other night and got to thinking about, well, I'm the only one that's living out this way now.
That's blessed from your family.
I went through them all. My cousins and all, that lived out this way.
Yeah.
They're all gone. But there's two Scarboroughs are brothers. They live out this way, Maxton Scarborough and Orville Scarborough, isn't that?
Are they related to you?
They're my cousins.
Okay.
Their father was my mother's brothers.
Okay.
And that's about the only one. Now my other cousin, their brother, he was married in January. And he died last January. So I said, well, that leaves me the only one, only the younger one.
And did it used to be all Scarboroughs on this road you were telling me before? On your street?
Yeah, all of this was Scarborough. This was my uncle's. The next to it was my uncle's. And the next was my uncle's. And my next uncle's. And then they come over on this side. And my mother's sister, she lived on the end of that side. And then her brother, and then her other brother come right on.
Wow. And that used to be a little store across the street. You were telling me about that before,
yeah.
The little red building. What was the name of that store?
What was the name of it? I don't think it had any name.
Oh, okay. Who owned it?
Well, my two of my uncles built it. And one of them went in the Coast Guard, and the other one went in the Army. And they were, set up in business, had canned stuff and all that stuff, to sell. And my uncle over here took it over.
Okay.
So he ran it for a good while, and then he bought that country house out here.
The country house?
He bought that store. That was a store that belonged to us.
What was his name? Your uncle that had the store?
The one that had that store out there? Andrew Meekins.
Andrew Meekins.
And
that's where you went and did the dancing sometimes?
No, I don't think we went there. Well, sometimes, say they'd go in there and dance.
Okay.
My brother had a place out here, too, and they come around with this yellow meal. Nobody would eat it. And they'd give it to me, or different ones that my brother knew, and we'd put it on that floor. His store was out there. And a man from Maddie, a Rash Whisker, they call it, brought one of them great big Victrolas or something, and they'd put dime into it and play what records they wanted. And we'd dance on that meal, and it made the prettiest, yellowest floor.
And why did you put the meal down? Did you dance barefoot on it then, or?
No, we had shoes on, I guess, but we just put the meal on to clean the floor.
Oh, okay. And after you're done, when you swept it up, I guess the floor was nice and clean.
Yeah, when we'd sweep it up. Sometimes we'd run into a wad of gum that somebody had thrown in the floor, and stepped onto it or something. We'd have to take something and, go under it and get it out.
Why wouldn't anyone eat that yellow meal? I was wondering about that.
I don't know why they didn't. It was just, a lot of people, I think, eat it, but I don't know. have they fixed it or why they didn't need it. Some people around here that needed that stuff, you know.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, my father was, you know, everybody looked at him as well-to-do
Mm-hmm.
because every month, see, he was in Coast Guard,
Mm-hmm.
and every month that check come in where it rained or shone.
Right.
Well, the others around here, most of the others, was a fisherman's.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes they'd make something, sometimes they wouldn't.
Mm-hmm.
So he was always considered a good liver.
Mm-hmm. Now tell me some more about your grandfather's seaweed business. His name was Pharaoh Scarborough, is that right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And you told me before some about the sea oars. Now, is that oars like the kind of oars I would think about for rowing a ship, that type of oars, or a horse?
No, that he had these big pitchforks, they call them. And this sea oars would wash up on the shore.
Mm-hmm.
He would throw them up on the shore side more so they wouldn't go back in the sand and let them dry out. Then he'd take them in this big, long building, and he had people hired, you know, to do the work. No.
How many people do you think worked for him?
Well, I don't know. He had a lot of people hired, though. But anyway, it would be bales about this big.
About 3-4 feet wide?
And high, you know, that they'd bundle them all up together, fix a nice bundle out of them, and put wire across this end and wire across this end, you know.
Around each end?
Yeah, each end, you know, to hold them together, I guess. And take them, they had a freight boat here. They used to bring freight and take stuff, you know, to Williams City. And one of my uncles ran that boat.
What was his name?
And they used to take them up out of Williams City and sell them. They said they used to make mattresses out of them.
Huh. What was your uncle's name who ran the freight boat? Was that the Julie Bell?
Huh?
Was that the Julie Bell? The boat that they put him on?
The Julie Bell, yeah.
And you said your uncle run it. What was his name?
Walker Scarborough.
Walker Scarborough. Okay. How much they would sell for by the bale, or guess you weren't involved in that part of things?
No. I was just a child, you know, knowing that things like that was going on, you know.
And that building where he did that, that was right behind your house here, wasn't it, almost?
Yeah, about, you know, almost straight down to the sand.
And that's right behind Scarborough Lane here.
And we had a road that went right back here, you know, where they put the dog in there.
Oh, okay.
The landing path, they always call it.
I've been back along the little path back here. Did they build the little canal that runs back along behind here?
Did they what?
There's a little canal that kind of comes back along through here, isn't there?
Yeah.
Was that built, or was that?
They took that out.
Okay.
You know, I don't know how long it's been, but they come here and asked my mother about going back there, you know. And so they started down this way, and they come on, you know, and kept going on out until they got to the north end. The now that they called it.
Why did they do that? Why did they build the little canal? Was it to get boats through from the houses, or?
No, the boats didn't go through it. It wasn't that tall. They keep digging it out and throwing the sand this way until it's right in my backyard now.
Mm.
But they dug it out to, from the North Landing, it would, pass, when the tide would come up, or the water would come up deep in the sound, it would go on through that way instead of coming in the village.
Oh, that's why they built it.
Yeah.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense. I've been back there on a kayak a couple times. I have a friend who lives on North End Road.
Oh, you do?
Yeah, and she has one of the landings onto that little canal in her backyard.
That lives up north in here?
Yeah, do you know the Doors, Rita Dore?
Oh, yeah.
Her son, Brad.
I don't know.
He has the Dairy Queen. That's a good friend of mine and his wife. I was friends with his wife. But, yes, I've been back along there. I wondered about that. I had another question about the sea oars. Now, we were a little confused. My colleague had seen something about that in an old interview from the island, and that interviewer had written it down like sea horse with an H, H-O-R-S-E. And the way Sharon had written it down on your notes, and the way I thought you were saying it was oars, like O-A-R-S, like as in rowing oars, that type of oar. What's the right way to say that? We weren't sure what kind of word you meant.
Well, a lot of people called it seaweed.
Uh-huh.
So I don't know who gave it the name of sea oars. I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
How come that oars with it? We always, would say sea oars instead of seaweed, but it was really seaweed.
Mm-hmm. And the word oars, is that like the same type of oars like you would have in a little rowboat, like that kind of oars?
I don't know.
But for...
Why would they call it sea oars? Without they throwed it up on the shore, then they'd say seashore. Sea oars. I don't know where they got that name from.
But it wasn't like horse, like sea horse. Do you see the difference in what I'm saying?
Yeah, no, it was just sea oars.
Okay, all right.
And they had pitchforks that they'd, they're great big, and they'd go in the sound and, just dip up that, and they'd stay in that, and the water would come out, and they'd throw them up on the shore side to dry.
Mm-hmm.
And there were always mud along there, chunks of mud, and we'd go down there, we girls would go down there and get that mud and come and make us mud dolls out of them.
Yeah.
And dry them out, and they'd be like gray looking,
Mm-hmm. I wonder if it was some type of clay.
Yeah, but it was mud-like,
When did your grandfather stop his business? About when? How old were you?
Oh, he died in 26,
Okay.
1926. I know that, so it was long before he died. My grandmother died in 46.
What was her name?
Milvina.
Milvina Scarborough. And you have told me before, I'm not sure if I got all your family, who were your other grandparents on the other side?
Well, my father's side, I didn't, know any of them. They died when he was small, or his mother died when he was about 2.
Okay.
And then his father married again. And sister, real sister, and they had some half sisters. But he stayed with her a lot. He died in 1960, my father did. And his sister and her husband is both buried up to the north end of here.
Oh, okay.
They brought them from Norfolk down here.
Oh, good.
In fact, the undertaker, they had these undertakers, and they'd come from Norfolk, and they'd always stay here if they had to spend the nights or 2 or 3 days.
Here at your house?
Yeah, in this house. No. One of them, he was a younger guy, and he'd come with his father, you know. But he took it over, and he'd come in. I don't know whether they didn't bomb them or not, but anyway, he'd fix them where they would, you know, keep up for 3 days anyway. People always wanted to keep their people 3 days. And he'd stay here. I sleep in that bedroom downstairs.
Why did they stay here?
There was no hotels or nothing like that, you know. And my father knew everybody, you know, around Norfolk anyway, because his sister, you know, lived up there, and he'd go up there about every month, you know. We'd always go there.
Could you tell me a little more about the dancing that you used to do? You said you used to go down to the seaweed building and square dances.
We used to have certain nights that we'd go down there, and there were different ones. Some played the mouth harp, some the drum, and some would play like a banjo or something like that. And they'd have something that they'd blow through. Oh, we had all kind of music.
Wow.
And we thought that was something we'd square dance, you know, down there in that sewer house.
How many people would show up?
Oh, well, they'd be all the young people, you know, and there was people around that was, you know, high up in the church, and they didn't believe in stuff like that. And one night we was down there on a Saturday night, I guess it was. Well, this man come down there looking for his daughter. She hadn't got home at the time she was supposed to, I guess. They do that, you know. We'd have to be home a certain time, or else people go out to look for her. So we was all in there. Somebody hollered out, "Here comes Alfred."
Halford?
Alfred.
Alfred.
We blow the lights out, and every one of us would go get behind the bunches of COs that they had fixed up, ready to be sent off, you know. Was hiding all around. And come in, and they come up to me, and, you know, was a feeling. He said, "Mary," I said, "This is not Mary." I didn't want him to know my voice.
Did he find her?
I don't know whether he did or not. I don't imagine he did. "She's not here," we'd say, or somebody would say, "She's not here," or something. After they'd leave, well, we'd decide, you know, that we better shut everything up. Come on home.
How old were you?
Oh, well, probably 15, 16. They'd be 14, and I don't imagine they'd be any younger. 19, you know, we was up there big enough, you know, we wanted to do things like that.
And did your parents mind you doing this? Did they know?
Yeah, they knew. Well, a lot of them, you know, they didn't want us to, but now, there was a man. Now, my sister was older than I am. She would like to go and watch what was going on, no, but she would never dance or anything like that. But me, Boy, I wanted to get on that floor. And so there's the superintendent from the Methodist Church.
What was his name?
Fields.
Fields?
Anyway, he come around to find out who was down there that Saturday night, you know. I guess they were going to turn him out in church. I think it was that way, and, you know, when we went to church, all of us had to be in the choir, you know. So he came here, and my mother told him, she said, well, I can tell you that my oldest daughter wasn't into it, but I don't know about my youngest one. He said, I don't think that as they was into it, they're young, and you've been young once, and I don't think they should be turned out of church. I think they should be put in church and talked to about things. So he went on.
Did anything ever come of it? Did anyone get turned out of church for it?
He wanted, you know, to not have us in the choir or have us in the church for anything, you know, because we were million, you know. He thought that was million in us going to a dance or something.
Well, how many times did you get away with having that dance before this all happened?
Well, we got away with that. I guess they got my grandfather to board it up or nail it up or something to keep us from giving that. Then we took to go into the bank of the beach. And then there was a place down here. It was called the Southern then. And there was people that were living down there. And what didn't move up here, you know, and the Southern was down there by the food line.
Okay.
My daughter's living down that way now. We used to go down that way blackberrying and things, you know. And now they've cleared it all out and got homes and lots and things down there. But they called it the Southern. And we used to go down there. There was an old woman and man that lived down there. And I guess they moved up this way closer. Left their old house. We used to go there, and first we'd, you know, be on the porch, and we got so that I guess we opened the door or got in some way, and we'd go in the house.
So you
anywhere that we could find a place that we could dance, we'd go get it.
That's neat. That's really neat. And do you think, was it just a small group of friends, like 10 people, or was it 20, 30 people?
Oh, as much as 25, 30, I guess.
Wow.
Well, there's all the young people. What didn't dance would go to it, you know. Well, we didn't have nothing else to do, you know. And then they had these stores, and they had these music boxes into them, and we'd go to them.
When did your brother get the store down the street here where you like to dance there? Well, around what time did he...
That wasn't my brother that owned that one.
Oh, okay.
My brother owned one here. My father bought the old school building when they built a new school building up here between here and the north end. And he bought this, it was a right new place, the older place. I don't know what they done with that one. He bought that and put it up here for my brother for a store. My cousin had one in the store that he had. He sold like shoes, different kind of clothes and things like that, you know. He sold, you know, most everything. And
that your brother's store had electricity early on?
Well, my father had a Delco.
That's right.
He had Delco, and he had it run. The Delco piece where it's set onto is out there now, just, you know, that cement piece. Well, he had that Delco, and he had it, the wiring go from here to his house and the store.
Okay, so it was right next door, and he ran the wires
right,
over.
Yeah, right out there to the highway, or the highway goes.
But the other parts of the village didn't have electricity yet at that time?
No.
When was that? Do you remember, just approximately, like how old were you when he got into the store and when he got the generator?
I don't remember ever being without lights, you know. I don't remember that we ever sat by kerosene lamp like the others. Now, my mother had two of these mantle lamps, they were called. Upstairs now, well, I think the chimneys had broke. She was, you know, mostly sick a lot, and they had the public health hospital in Norfolk, and she would go to that a lot. And there was a nurse in there that she, you know, telling her about these lamps and things that she had that she used before they got the lights. And this nurse wanted one. The next time she went, she took one, carried it up there. But it was a different one from what is here now.
Could you tell me, you had told me a lot about going out shellfishing and gathering things like that. You said about the man nose, and you would get some oysters and clams. Could you tell me a little bit more about that?
Well, you know, people use it. Now, I never would eat a man nose. I like clams. Well, we used to go down to the lane and had a rake, I think, a rake. Well, a lot of people would go to Hatteras, down there to Hatteras, because they got so there was nothing hardly out here. And they'd go to Hatteras. Well, one time I went down there, my neighbor over here, she died in October. Well, she come to Hatteras. Well, we'd go down there to her father and mother's place. It was right on the sound side, you know, and go out there, and there'd be people with these salt sacks, they called them. Kind of a brown, you know, cloth bag. Well, we'd go down there and they'd drag these bags along with them, and they'd pick up clams, you know. Go along feeling for clams and dig them up and put them in the bag.
And they feeling with their feet for the clams?
Yeah. Some would have a rake and then go along pulling that rake, and they'd hear something click, and then they'd go to it, and it would be a clam or something, or a clam shell. But my aunt stayed over here. My uncle's wife, his last wife.
Right next door here, the house?
Yeah, his last wife. And she went down there one day, and she had a bag, and she was dragging it along, you know, and she come to a place, somebody's clam bed, you know, they had piled up their clams. Well, she thought she was sitting by, she was putting them clams in there, and somebody on the shore side said, "Get out of my clam bed." Well, here she come dragging her sack. She had plenty of them in there. Time she got there, she had clams. She didn't have about 5 or 6. It come a hole in her bag. As she left that place, she was losing her clams. Well, we went behind her, went to picking up the clams that she had lost.
And man noses, where did you get those?
Well, that was in the sound too. They'd dig them up. They'd be buried up in clams too. They'd dig them up. I never hear of them no more.
That's why, yeah, that really interests me, because I never heard anything about those.
I never hear of man noses no more.
And how about...
They were in a long shell.
Mm-hmm.
I remember.
About how long do you think? You have about 3 or 4 inches there with your fingers.
Oh, they'd be about this long, about...
That's about 3 inches, I think.
Yeah.
Maybe 4.
Some of them would be smaller, you know.
Mm-hmm.
In a shell that had that thin-like shell, they wouldn't have a thick shell like a clam.
Mm-hmm.
But they had that shell, and you'd open that shell up, and they'd be laying in there, and they'd have that snout onto them.
Mm-hmm. And how did people fix them, like they did the clams and stuff, in soup or fritters?
I think they would fry them, meal them, put meal onto them and fry them like that. My husband used to like them. Now, he always would fix them himself, you know. I never done anything like that. I was funny about my eats anyway. You know, I wouldn't eat. If my mother, if they killed a hog or anything, and they had chitlins, you know, and my mother cooked them chitlins, so they'd smell the house all up. So she took them in the outhouse and had a little kerosene thing in the stove in there that she'd fry them onto. I remember one time, everybody that come around here, even the ones that come to these stores, the drummers, you know, to sell different things to these stores. My father knew everybody that come around. And here they'd come over here to eat. And the man in Norfolk would come down here with bring coal for the heat with. And my father had a big heat stove in here and a one in there. And they'd come here, they'd always bring him coal and different ones around, you know. And if they were here eating time, they had to come, and they were colored, you know. And people down this way weren't used to colored people. We didn't know who colored people were. Of course, I did, because I was always going, since I could remember, I was always going to Norfolk around with them, you know. My cousin and all, see, my father's sister lived up there, and she had a girl my age, you know, 2 boys. So when they'd come here to bring coal, when they'd come and dump the coal out here, my father would go out there and say, come on now. Such and such things on the table, you know. Come on in and eat. They wouldn't want to come in the house. They'd say, Mr. Gray, just bring us something out here, you know. Oh no. Come on in the house. Well, they'd send me to the store right over here, you know. If, you know, if they thought we didn't have enough to get canned corned beef, slice it up, and fry potatoes and things like that. They had to come in and eat.
And your father would always have, even if they were colored people, he'd always have them come into the house and eat?
Oh, yeah.
And they weren't used to that?
No, they weren't. See, people around here wasn't used to colored folks. But my father would, you know, and they didn't think much of that coming in either, you know. They felt like, you know, they were in the wrong place with white people.
But they would come in and,
Oh,
and eat
yeah.
a meal with your family.
Yeah.
That's great. That's wonderful. And did anyone in the village give your father a hard time for that, or?
No, I don't guess they, they didn't pay no attention to it. They didn't do it themselves,
Mhm.
Those people that wouldn't have invited them in to eat or nothing.
Mhm. And were they just workers down here?
Yeah,
Delivery people?
Yeah, they just deliver, The daughter made. In the winter time, they used to come around here and go out, had these blind, they called them, out in the sound and kill geese and bring them in and sell them to people.
Oh, okay.
As
The hunters would go out into the sound right here and get the geese?
Yeah, they had a blind, they call it.
Mhm.
They'd get in that thing and, hide themselves, and when they'd hear them honkings and all,
Mhm.
they'd raise up and shoot at them,
Mhm.
And there were people from New York had come down here. They'd go out in them blinds,
Mhm.
And there was a place that up to the north end, up there close to where you say you go,
Mhm.
A man lived up there. He'd take so many of them in, to spend 2 or 3 nights or something like that.
Hmm.
But that's, all I know of right now of what happened.
Sure. Well, if you've got stuff to do with your daughter, we can just go ahead and wrap it up. I don't want to keep you.
Well, she just always liked to take me out,
Sure.
And she said that she always was ready to go somewhere and live on her.
Okay. Well, I'll just go.
How they were fixed and all, because we used to, anybody come down there when we were down there dancing or anything, why we'd always get behind them. It would be weeks at the time before they would, get a chance to send them off to Lisbon City. They'd have to get, a big lot of them.
Mhm.
Boat full, I guess.
Hmm.